Welcome to the Escarpment. This is my model railway build channel and I'm your host Jason. In today's video there's a hell of a lot to get through. There's been a lot of work over the last month, I believe, since the last video. Now if the sound's a bit funny, I do apologise. I haven't hooked up my wireless microphone to the phone and attached it to myself. I've been having some issues with that of late, so it's going to be in the raw today. So hopefully it's not too bad. But in saying that, let's go have a look. Don't worry about what's behind me. Let's go have a look what's been going on. So first up, level 3, the branch line up here. It's now been totally completed. All the track work, I think in the last video, a lot of the track work in this area wasn't in place, wasn't completed. I believe I was waiting for this 3-bay shed kit to turn up so I can do some track measurements and just make sure I had the spacing right, especially with the 3 tracks to the back that you can see there. And you can see the second and third one there, the pits are being, or the maintenance pits are being put in place. I'm actually going to get another 2 more of these kits. They're about 400 millimeters long, so, and you can join them end to end, so that should make a large 1.2 meter shed in this area, especially for the coaches, the maintenance of it, the cleaning of them, and I think that'll fit into the scenery quite well. But anyway, that's what I've got planned in that area, and there's that kit down there, that one right there. But like I said, I'll buy another 2 and hook them all together end to end. There's another shot of everything, and obviously the terminus station down there. So the second monitoring system's all in place now. I've got the monitor attached. I've got the 4 extra cameras in place. I did come back to the first monitoring system. I made a couple little tweaks to the cameras, and I think it was mainly a change the position slightly with the Stanwell Park viaduct, and I think I lowered the camera up at the south end because later on I'll open up that fascia a little bit more due to the fact of the lift up bridge, and I'll talk about that a bit later. The other interesting thing was I had my granddaughter up here the other day, and she loves this sort of technical stuff, and she called me over and said, look at this, we can actually zoom right in a couple times. So if you touch this screen anywhere where you touch it, it will zoom in. So let's say I did want to zoom in at that end, and you can do that twice. I thought that was a pretty cool feature. So yeah, I had no idea. So I normally get her up here every now and then just to try out different things, and she ended up finding, new things. So that was great. So the new systems in place here, new cameras. I've got one up at the other end looking down at the coal loader, just so you can see the siding here with the set of points. And again, if you wanted to zoom in, you could really, to make sure you don't overshoot that set of points there. Go back, obviously that's the existing Port Kembla yard. That's the extension, which I'll talk about very shortly. And down here is basically the Port Kembla station, or where it will be. So you can see the platform there. So you can see the coal loop there, etc., as well as the station, so you don't overshoot anything. So other than that, I guess last video talked about some noise. I did actually find out what the hell was going on there. So it had nothing to do with the existing system that you buy. So with these, you get the monitor, you get the 4 cameras, you get 3 5-meter cables and a 15-meter cable. Now, because I was setting up cameras, or a number of cameras down the other end of the layout, because really it was about those areas you can't see from this area here, because this will be the area where you'll probably have 6 of the 8 control panels. And basically what happened was I ordered an additional 15-meter cables, but it was actually from another seller on eBay. Now it did state that they were shielded, but in actual fact when I opened one up, they were not shielded whatsoever, so that sort of explained the noise. So I went back to the original seller of these systems and ordered a few 15-metre cables, and once I put them in place and got rid of the cables with no shielding, it fixed up the problem. So everything's great now. The only thing left to do in this area is basically decide whether I'm going to have some auxiliary power still hooked into it. That's just due to the fact that these, I guess the date and times that you've got on here, I can't turn them on and off. Well, I can't find anywhere where I can do that. So it'd be really nice to probably have some backup power to these when everything gets switched off, just to keep that date and time. And look, that'll be something that I'll look into in the near future. But other than that, it's all installed and ready to go. So the big ticket item in the last month, where a lot of the effort was put in, was building this new workbench, and I'll talk about the extension a little later. But right now, the workbench here, it's all in place. What I ended up doing was I used pine for the top. Now, ideally for a workbench, it's not really the ideal wood, really, but what I wanted to do, and from experience of the last workbench that I had here, and I've actually moved that down to the garage now and using that for my 3D printer workbench. But what I wanted to do, the last one was so dark, and sometimes when things come off and you don't see it fly off and you're trying to search for it, it really made things tough. Pine really works well with whitewash, and I can really bring that lightness out of the wood. Because it is soft wood and not ideal for a workbench, I am going to invest in some varnish, some really hard-wearing varnish, and give it quite a number of coats to seal it, and then hopefully that'll protect it a little bit from dings and bangs, that type of stuff. But other than that, I'm really happy with it. It gives me a full 4 meters down that side, and then a little bit over on that end, and I think that end, it will probably house the spray booth, and I know I've got one on order, so that should be turning up next week or so. So one of the downsides of, I guess, this new design, the pluses were a lot more bench space. Also, I could extend the Port Kembla yards underneath, but I did actually lose my storage. And for those that remember, it was that storage cabinet there. I've got one there and one over there. Now, they're only up here temporary at the moment. I do need to work out some proper storage where I can then transfer the stuff that needs to stay up here before I then take them down and permanently house them in my garage. So first up, I did some wall storage there. Nice nifty kit. There's 2 kits there, but I thought, some stuff that's easy access to that I use all the time. Plenty of stuff there, and I've started to fill it a little bit, but I've still got to work that out. But the other idea I do plan to have is, I know part of where my existing cabinets I used there's a top half to it where it's got a set of 8 or 9 drawers plus the top. What I've found is that will actually fit under level 1, so I'm thinking of purchasing a couple of those, and that should then get the majority of stuff out of those cabinets. So I guess the second part to this area has been the extension of the Port Kembla yards. So basically on top of the yards here, I did actually move those set of points you can see right there. They were originally between these two rails here, and I've moved them back one, and that just allows then to take engines and switch them over to this one. So you can see there I've got the extension all in place, the wiring, all the points are in place, point motors, frog juices, everything. As far as the how am I powering which bus, because for those that have been watching this channel for a while, you know I've got 3 districts down here on level 1. So I've got the north side, which is, you know, this yard here and all the track that goes around about halfway down the shed on the other side. I've got the coal loop area here, which is the reverse loop. That's another district. And then, as I said, from that point down, including this helix, it's all on that south district. Given that the north side has a lot more track and probably a lot more trains, I did want to split this, so I have put in a bunch of insulating joiners there and made all this track up here part of the south side district. How's that going to get across that gap across the door there? Because obviously if I was to join it up to the north side, it would have been easy. I would have just continued running the power bus down that end. But as it is now, the north end district power bus ends here. There's another power bus for the south end. So what I actually end up doing was I actually made a T-junction on the south power bus down here, ran it up the wall behind that steel beam there. You can see the power cord up there as it crosses over. I put it behind the sound deadening foam I've got up there, ran it down and behind the curtains, and then it came down onto this side and underneath. That's what I've done with the district on this side with the extension of the Port Kembla yards. Will open up the operation so much, because now you'll be able to enter and exit the Port Kembla districts both on the north and south sides. And if you need to turn a train, you can actually use the reverse loop here to turn the train around, depending on what end you want to enter into and exit from. So with that said, so really now, besides the lift up bridge down there, all the track work for the escarpment has now been completed. All the tweaks, all the movements, all the track, all the extensions, everything's been done. All the branch lines for level 2, level 3. Once I do that lift up bridge down there, it'll be a major milestone as far as all the track work, wiring and everything that goes with that has now been totally completed. So concerning the lift up bridge, I think I've got the basic design principles down pat. What you can see here on the workbench, I've got the hinges. They will sort of sit in there like that. They will be sitting like that over on that side, and then basically sort of get that together. Where are we? So they'll sit like that. That's where the lift up bridge will sit, and that's where the track will be on, and then, you know, they'll lift up like that. And so that's basically the hinge design I'll be using. It will be on that end, so it'll lift up from this side, and then once it comes up, it'll be some sort of latch system to keep it up there when not in use. You can see there, that will be the bridge itself. I've got myself some of these aluminium dowel alignment items. I'll come back to this in a moment. I've got some track I think that came from UK. I sort of saw this ProTrack rail aligner and I thought, oh, it might be a nifty idea. I might give that a go. I'm not sure whether I'm going to use it, but basically, you know, where you've got the gap, get that together, where you've got the gap in the bridge, you know, you can solder your rails to these things and it sort of comes down with these grooves and they lock in together. Might help keep a line. I don't know whether I'm going to need that, but it's there. If I do, I just sort of went and purchased a couple of things when I was throwing around some ideas, etc. Now the powering of it, which is going to be the interesting concept, because as you know, there's a risk, you know, if that bridge, lift up bridge was up, you're running trains, you forgot it's up, you know, you don't want your trains to be running and then, you know, obviously go off the edge. Bit like the intro of the last video. But so what I've got planned is this section here at track will be isolated to everything else, and I'm going to do the same with the track that will come out the other end. Is that section will be powered independently, but what I wanted to do on this end, one of the rails will be powered, and then that end, the opposite rail, will be powered. And then what will happen is right here, and this is where I guess these strips come in place. When they make contact down here, both rails are energized. When it's broken, this whole section will not be energized. So, you know, if that bridge is up, I forget, I'm running the train. Once it gets to this point here, if it's up, that power connection will be broken and the train will just stop there. It will not go off the edge. So that's the principle behind it. I think I'll probably do a separate video with this bridge and I'll go into a little bit more detail to make that a lot more clearer, because I just find it's probably easier to demonstrate and show as I go along. So that now brings me to what projects I've got on the workbench at the moment, and I might start over here. I've got these brought these PowerTech Plus remote controls, and what it is basically you get one of these units, you plug it into the wall, and then you can actually turn them on and off with a remote control totally. The reason I've invested in some of these is, you know, when you come into the escarpment layout room, I've got to actually crawl under level 1 bench work to turn some PowerPoints on, especially if I'm running trains, doing some operations, or, you know, maybe working on the workbench. I've actually brought 2 packs of these, and the remote controls you can program, and basically I might just show you. I think at the moment I've got my DCC power box and my LEDs hooked into one unit. So basically I can come in, just demonstrate, so I turn it off. So I come in and then basically I can just take the remote, turn everything on, and it's that easy. So where I've seen other layouts that people have built, they come in, they've got all their switchboards in one place and they just go and, you know, they might have like the PowerPoint, the lights over there, they might just have a board of these and they just turn them on and everything comes on. So I wasn't able to retrospectively do that because obviously all the power's all in the wall, all done and dusted, so I couldn't come back and do that. So the next best thing I thought was this product over there. So it brings me to this black box here, and you're thinking, what am I doing on that one? Look, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to redo my LED power box. The main reason is I don't actually have the right dimmers, and especially, look, if I wasn't doing YouTube or I wasn't taking videos of anything, I probably would have just left it. And what I find with the camera and LEDs, sometimes they do not match, as in, you know, sometimes you can see the flicker on the camera, or you can see these sort of rolls in the camera. And so what I've done here is I'm redesigning this. I've actually now got a proper dimmer which handles up to 10,000 hertz, and that should be more than enough to sort of take any flicker or any rolls out of the camera footage when I'm sort of, you know, down here and doing close-ups. For you can sort of see there's some rolls. If you look on the blue wall, you can sort of see some rolls there. So this is meant to be taking a lot of that stuff out. I'm going to be rebuilding that. I mean, really, it should be pretty straightforward. I will take apart the other box. I will, obviously this is not the right power supply. I'll be reusing the power supply I've got in the LED box I've got now. I'll be replacing 3 dimmers with just the one. I will just have the 1 voltage readout. And I won't have, because of the system I just spoke about, I'm not going to have an on-off switch on it. It will just go straight from the power, straight to the wall, and it'll be just controlled by the remote over there. So brings us to the big item as well, the control panel. So some good news. So we had a resolution. They agreed that the quality was garbage, and they have actually now redone it and sent it out no cost to me. So that was a great outcome. So now I can actually look at these and see the actual writing, as you can see right there, and then see the actual codes against each of the, where the switches will be with the corresponding LEDs. So there's 8 control panels all up. You can see here all my switches are ready to go. I've got all the LEDs. I've placed them into their surrounds that will then plug in once I drill out the boards. I guess that's an area I'm a little bit nervous about at the moment. So, you know, with acrylic, obviously I'm going to use a drill that's slow, but I don't think I'll be using a hand drill. I'll have to use one of those ones on a pedestal, just to make sure I get straight cuts and accurate cuts. But what's that space? 6 of those panels, as I said, will be in that area over there. And the other 2, or obviously one will be for the level 2 branch, and the other one will take care of the level 3 branch. But yeah, so that's a big job. That'll be over the next couple months, no doubt. Obviously I've still got to work on the side panels for these. I don't know whether I'm going to go back and do one more prototype. If you sort of saw my last video, you know what I'm talking about there on how I'm going to attach them. I still like that idea, but I guess I just need to have a look at the design, do some tweaks, and then work out what am I going to enclose it on the bottom, because I really don't, if you're sort of sitting down at level 1 and looking up, I don't want all the wires exposed looking ugly. So, but anyway, that's some stuff I need to work through. So one of the other projects that I spoke about, needing to take this Walther's 90-foot turntable and make it a real complete DCC controlled item. Right now, what you'll find, and for those that do have this motorized kit, you'll find if you had a loco on it with sound, there's a certain area on that turntable where it then goes dead. And the reason for that is, and you can sort of see this board here, the 2 outer rings, you can see the gap there. Now that is to allow, once this turns to a certain, I guess, degree on that turntable, it has to switch the rail polarity, and to do that, their design is they turn the power off and then it switches as it goes around. You know, if you've got a loco with sound, you lose it and you've got to then turn it back on manually. I'm not really happy with that design. I don't feel that it's a complete DCC solution. So what I've got installed is this little mechanism here. Now this side here, it rotates around, but it has continuity between the wires, continued, there's no break. So what I plan to do is replace this board here with this unit. Obviously, you know, the wires will be connected to those wires, the corresponding wires will then be connected to the turntable on the other side. Now you're sort of saying, well, hang on a minute, what happens to the rails and the polarity, that type of stuff? Well, the good thing is the wires that come out of the bottom of the turntable, what I'm going to do is hook up a frog juicer, but I'm going to configure it in a way where it turns, like you can turn those into a reverser. So it will then, reversing the polarity will be done by the frog juicer external to the turntable. And so that's how I'm going to control the polarity on that. And it's pretty much the same, you know, as it sort of, my frog juice is how it works on the frogs of these points. They're all electrified, and basically, you know, if the polarity is incorrect, it senses that all within microseconds, milliseconds, whatever it is, and you don't even notice any break in the sound or lighting, and it just switches. So that's basically what's going to happen in this sort of solution. I've just got to come back. I've actually, because I'm going to replace that, I've got to come up with a design on something on the 3D printer where I'll design something which will hold this in place and in the center of this unit. So when I put it on, it stays put, and the wires will then just turn freely, and nothing will get, I guess, tangled, that type of thing. So so what's that supposed? I may have a separate video on that one. We'll see. But look, if you're interested, leave the comments below. I mean, I can't just satisfy one or two, but if there's a few people interested, I'll do a separate video on that one. But anyway, that's going to be my solution, and then once I'm done with that, it'll be a fully fledged DCC solution of a turntable. One of the other things I've started to do is I've got these power bus spike suppressors that I've got from DCC Concepts, and I've started to, at the end of each of my power buses where they terminate, I've started to put these in. So, you know, I've got one down there, another one there. I need to put these two in up here for the level 2 and level 3 branch lines. I've got another terminus bus, power bus under the helix here, and then obviously I've got another one in the reverse loop district as well. So what will that do for me? Well, obviously it'll help control any noise along in the line because I'm using DCC, but also, and not so much on the current side, but definitely the voltage. When you have short circuits, there's some nasty volt spikes that can go through your track and destroy stuff. So having these in place, it should take those spikes out and just protect some of your equipment. It won't do it for the current, but obviously I've got other circuit breakers and all that type of thing that helps with that, but this will just help take out any of those major voltage spikes, and just a bit of insurance really at the end of the day. Okay, spoken about in the last video, and I sort of quickly mentioned about block detection, signaling, that type of stuff. I've started to dabble, and what I've done is brought myself a whole bunch of optical sensors. I've got LEDs, level 1, level 2 above, give plenty of light. I mean, I looked at the infrared and I just thought, oh, well, that's 2 extra holes side by side. Might be harder to camouflage that on the track once that gets ballast, etc. So I think I'm going with the optical. And what I'm going to do, I've ordered a bunch, I think that's 5mm, that optical sensor. And what I've done is ordered a bunch of 3mm. So I will then desolder that. I can actually put a wire on it and have the 3mm optical sensor at the other end, and then able to, maybe put a double-sided tape and just have that sitting in that vicinity of where I've got it. And I think I'll use those definitely when it comes to signaling. Now, just based on that, I might just quickly show you, I've got a new signaling system. Well, one item thanks to Dale Richards, and that's basically what you'll find in that spot on the escarpment at the Stanwell Park Viaduct. Obviously I've got to have the box behind, and I've got to design that, print that out. But yeah, so basically, I'll have an optical sensor there which will then provide a signal back, and I'm going to go down the lines of the Arduino stuff, and then from there it'll take that signal, and then there'll be another control board which will then be able to control these servos, and I'll have a servo under that signal that will then activate that arm. But anyway, that's the plan. And I've also got some other different current sensors coming in, 2 types. One's probably more sensitive than the other. I'm just going to do some trials and see where I might be able to use those when I'm going through and looking at block detection and stuff like that. But anyway, as I said, that's still plenty of planning there, but there's some ideas that I've just thrown out there that I'm looking into at the moment, and we'll see where I go to from there. I guess one of the last items that's on the workbench at the moment, For those that follow my Facebook group, you would have seen some pictures here. So this is the latest addition. I've gone back in to the coal loader and added, the railings and the platforms to the support areas of the coal loader, and you can see there. This is just the first prototype. There is a couple of areas that didn't come out too well, but it was around about 80%. That was really good, and I was really surprised. I didn't really think it was going to turn out this well. And if I see if it zooms right in, you can see the platforms there on how intricate they are, and they turned out very well. Now there's some areas there where it didn't, probably got stuck, and it sort of snapped some of those. But I think, when you look at the real deal, that's always got dings and bangs, and accidents happen, and the metal has been, I guess, injured in some way. So I wasn't real fussed with that. But obviously over here, that was the area that really got banged up. But I think I'm gonna change my next prototype. I'll change a couple of things, a couple of angles of it. I'm also going to do less supports. I don't think I need as many supports as I did have, and I think that's where I got into trouble, especially trying to take those supports off. There was all sorts of things going through those railings and that, and I think, that just caused more damage than actual, that I needed those supports to hold things in place. But anyway, so there'll be two of those, one on each side. That's the middle part. And if I show you the coal loader, so what you just saw there on both sides with the stairs and the platforms, there'll be one there and one on the other side, and then that middle part through the center here. There's another platform there that this bin sits on. I've also got a new bin that actually has the corrugated iron on it, all ready to go. You can see here I was sort of doing some experimentation. But now that I've been able to get it onto the actual design, I'm just going to print it with it already embedded in it. You see up top there, that was my second prototype. Doesn't have the outside skin on, and that's some of the stuff I'm working on. But you can see there, I've also got the coal chute hole up there. I've got the coal chutes ready to go and to be printed, and they'll sort of come down with an angle, and that's basically how the coal then gets loaded into the bin, ready to be dumped into the coal cars down below. Obviously this is just a very, very rough prototype, missing a lot of detail, but it gives you at least a visual of where I'm headed. So for those with a really keen eye, you probably would have thought, oh, he started scenery. Not quite. But in saying that, what I've done here is I've went out and brought a few G-scale trees. I just wanted to get a feel, and these in size are roughly, I believe, between 400 and 450 millimeters high, and roughly between 350 or 300 millimeters wide. And I just wanted to get a feel, because I guess the perspectives when you look at stuff, but especially on the escarpment, the trees are really big. And I guess a lot of people sort of get caught up, especially when they're looking at their layouts, and I see a lot of layouts with tree sizes, which for me, and this is a personal thing, don't quite fit the actual size that you see in real life. So I've sort of been dabbling here. Now obviously in this area there's a lot of terraforming to be done, a lot of styrofoam to be added. Those trees will be a lot higher, but I just wanted to get a feel for the size of those, and I thought they were really good sizes there for some of the main trees in the background. This area here, once I do get to scenery, and I know, I've been talking about it a long time, but I think I'll come back to this area, and this will probably be the first thing that I'll start to terraform and really get that shape in place with the surrounding landform around this bridge. Because now that I've got the trees there, I've gone, ooh, that looks good, and it's given me lots and lots of ideas. Obviously I've got to come back. These are only prototypes. I don't know if that'll focus. Can I get that to focus there? No. Anyway, that's brickwork. with the 3D printer, and obviously I've got to do the arches. There's a whole bunch of other brickwork, the legs, etc., etc. So I'm going to start to sort of slowly progress that in the background to get that ready, because obviously, you know, once I do the terraforming and you can sort of see the land roughly sort of comes to a V, and then obviously there's some creek and rock beds down here between these two piers, and then the creek goes off over to that in that direction, and then on this side you can sort of see where I've sort of roughed in roughly where the terraforming will go. So I need to get that all in place and get it plastered in, give it a, you know, a first coat, because I guess with my scenic endeavors everything's like an onion, one layer at a time, and everything builds up. So yeah, and I guess with these landforms, when I do the skin prints, the brickwork to go on, you know, I only need to take it out down to a certain level. I don't need to do the whole lot, because obviously that's going to be covered with foam. But anyway, that area will probably be my first area I'll target, especially when I start doing the terraforming. So what's that space? Exciting times. It may not start until early next year, but we'll see. Seeing those trees, seeing the greenery there, it does have me excited. So that's what's been going on over the last 4 to 5 weeks. There's been a hell of a lot accomplished, and I'm very happy where I am at the moment. So moving forward, obviously some of the things you saw, I've got to get back to that design of the lift bridge or the drop bridge or whatever you want to call it. And as mentioned, that is the first for me. So I've just got to, work through some of the logistics of it, but I'll get there in the end. And obviously we had a win with the control panels. While certain aspects of it wasn't perfect, but anyway, I need to get over that, and that'll be something I'll be working on over the next, I guess, month or two, maybe more. It's quite a lot of work to be done there. Obviously I've got a bunch of sensors over there with the optical stuff, so I want to sort of start looking at that and start thinking ahead on where I might use those sensors. But I've also got a bunch also coming from overseas as well, so I've got some different current sensing ones. So I think one should be a little bit more sensitive than the other, but I'll have to do some testing to see where they might come in handy. And obviously I've got to get back to that turntable. I really want to design that last little piece to it so I can then get it back together and have it I guess operating fully as a DCC, so without it cutting out and losing sound and then having to start that back up again. So this time it'll be a fully fledged DCC system, as it should have been designed in the first place. So with that said, I'm going to keep that short, given probably the rest of the video is probably quite long. So until next time, take care, be kind to each other. Bye for now. Maybe we'll just do a quick trial. Make sure I've got me focused in there. Welcome to the JNWHA. Fucking hell, can't believe I said that.